I'm both a venture capital and also an angel, yeah.
And you're a great connector.
I came with about $20,000 of, loan.
What made you to stay motivated, not to give up?
One by one, all the doors open.
Founders become very stubborn with their idea, which makes things harder.
Technology doesn't stay stale and doesn't stay static, right? So we had to pivot again. I was a serial entrepreneur until 3 years ago. I started about 4 companies and then pivoted many times. We raised some money. We raised about $2.1 million at that time. But then, with the dot-com downturn, we had to close that in.
Most of the VCs, they avoid doing marketing themselves, because they think that, because I have money, startups will come and find me.
The money, but I also want to learn what's happening, in technology.
Most of the founders, they present, they don't pitch. The first sentence she wrote, "Hi, XYZ, this is my startup," and then she paused.
How do you kind of prepare yourself for that? So that's a mistake that I have done.
We need to talk about this with investors who are guests in the podcast to help other founders not to make that mistake.
But you do need to have those checks and balances. Get advice and then look at a different perspective and move forward. They should focus on telling your story. You tell your why. Why are you doing what you are doing?
Hello everyone, my name is Aytakin and I welcome you from Verso Talk with Aytakin podcast that aims to feature successful immigrant leaders in investment, startups and Fortune 500 tech companies to share their journey, to talk about investment, fundraising, money, and how to succeed in America as an immigrant woman. Today, our guest is incredible woman. She is a Femigrant, female immigrant from India. Her name is Subha. Subha serves as a venture partner at 3i Partners, focusing on India's deep tech sector. Her investment portfolio also includes limited partner positions in How Women Invest Fund. Beyond venture capital, Subha extends her impact through angel investing in select technology companies. I am so excited to welcome you, Subha, in our show. Welcome to Verso Talk with Aytakin.
Thank you, Aytakin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. How do you feel? How is your Sunday?
Oh, Sunday so far is good. I had my yoga class, in the morning, so I'm very centered, calm, ready for you.
Great. So I know you have really a modest, authentic and humble personality, and this is the goal of our podcast, to keep the conversation authentic.
Thank you.
And you are an amazing guest for it.
Thank you so much.
I would love to start with you introducing yourself. Anything that I missed to say about you in an official way, then we will talk about your journal and personal story.
Yeah, sure. In addition to being an investor at this time, I was a serial entrepreneur until 3 years ago. I started about 4 companies and then pivoted many times, all in technology, but with different focus. So that's something I think I would like to add. I'm also on the board of a non-profit foundation called Pratham, and it's actually from India, but they are impacting about 25 million children in improving the quality of education in India. Not just in India, but some of the other Asian countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, and I believe they are in parts of Central Asia as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, you said 4 companies.
Yes, I did.
So
yeah.
Tell us about them, please. So what companies and how did you pivot? Did you exit or did you sell?
Yeah, sure. My first company was SriTech, which I started more than 30 years. No, Actually, I'm sorry. It's about 25 years ago. And SriTech I started SriTech when I had my first baby, and I was trying to get back to the workforce. And obviously, there are some restrictions and limitations. And at that time, I thought about other women in similar situation. So I spoke to a friend of mine who is actually doing different projects like in software. Again, internet is new during this time, and the whole website development is also new. So then he said, yeah, by all means, we can do something together. So I started this, and I was able to actually employ 10 women who were software engineers, but were able to work at their at a flexible time for them. Then we ran that company for about 2 years before I got an opportunity to start .com, in Silicon Valley. So I moved to Silicon Valley back. Actually, I was in Silicon Valley before. I moved back in about 1999, and we had a portal called comingtoamerica.com. It's very much in line with what you are doing today. So back then, immigrants did not have a lot of resources available to them in terms of their visa, whether it's F1, H1, and you name it, right? Green card, and also access to the list of universities that they could apply for, and the list of other professional services. So this portal, actually, our vision was to create a one-stop place for all these immigrants to go take advantage of that. However, we raised some money. We raised about $2.1 million at that time. But then, with the .com downturn, we had to close that in. However, what we were able to do is pivot it, and because we already established a software development team in India, so we said, okay, let's go into software development. So we pivoted to software development, while we were trying to find our niche, we spent about a couple of years in website development and other other parts of programming. So then we found storage software, embedded storage software development, and we worked with people companies like Oracle and Pillar Data Systems and Seagate and all these big companies. So again, technology doesn't stay stale and doesn't stay static, right? So we had to pivot again in 2012. So we switched to cloud migration and cloud security. So 2021, that's when we sold our company, and then as much as I love being an entrepreneur, I figured that I wanted to be more being a mentor, advisor, and investing in them. So I still wanted to be in the startup ecosystem. There you go. I'm here.
Very, very inspiring story.
Thank you.
And hearing that you pivoted your idea 4 times, that also talks about flexibility in your idea. Just now we had a guest that you met. She said that sometimes founders become very stubborn with their idea, which makes things harder because now you are investing to startups. Have you had experiences mostly in founders sticking to their idea, being more stubborn, or opposite, like you, ready to pivot and make a success?
It depends, Aytakin. It's some areas, like, for example, space and defense tech, they do stick to their ideas because, in deep tech especially, it takes a while, for these products to be developed because it's not just software, it's hardware and software together. So so it takes some time for the product to be proved, in the market. So they do stick to that, but however, they're open to the ideas of how that could be improved based on the market and based on the technology. Like, for example, adding a feature which is marketable immediately, rather than just sticking with the features that they come up with. In software, it's a little bit easier to pivot and then kind of do develop product according according to the market. So we do see founders being flexible because of the fact that, like, technology is, it's proven several times that, like, it's dynamic, it's fluid, like, it constantly evolves. So they are open. Again, as I said, like, it depends on, the sector and the market, those things play a role.
And do you currently work as an angel investor only?
No, actually, I do invest. I did invest, as an angel investor. Currently, as I said, like, I'm a venture partner in one fund, which is, we raise money here, but we invest in India deep tech. However, I'm an LP in How Women Invest Fund 1 and 2 and MMF Partners. However, I do. Like, for example, recently, a couple of days ago, I got a pitch where it's a for-profit startup, but then they want to help non-profit with generative AI platform. So things like that interest me. It's like, it makes an impact. And it's also like using technology, like, dynamically. So things like that, when they interest me, I'm currently evaluating that company. So things like that, interest me, and then I invest. So I'm both a venture capital and also an angel, yeah.
I listened to one of the podcasts recently, and the guest was really well-known, like VC. He said that most of the VCs, they avoid doing marketing themselves because they think that, because I have money, startups will come and find me. But he said that it's a wrong approach. If you don't continue doing marketing, then you will not be able to grow your fund. So I would love to hear your thoughts about that and what VCs need to do to be visible, or do they have to be visible? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with the fact that, marketing is probably like, it's a perception, right? Like, what kind of marketing are you talking about? So for me, I like to put a word out there, what's my thesis is, right? What are the companies I'm interested in investing? And not only that, it's a two-way street in learning. I'm here, okay, it's not just about the money, but I also want to learn what's happening, in technology. What kind of problems are these founders solving, right? So I completely agree with the fact that, like, we do need to put ourselves out there and let people know we are open to having a conversation. So I get a lot of LinkedIn requests, and I try to do my best, depending on the time available, to talk to them at least like once, if not more, and tell them, hey, listen, you have a good idea, or you need to improve your idea, or if I have any resources that, in my network, I certainly connect them. But if it is something that, right along, what I'm doing, then, I take it further. So coming to your point, yeah, we do need to put ourselves out there and say, hey, this is our thesis. These are the things that, like, we are investing in. So Mayfield Partners, they actually do a very good job of, like, telling people what they want to do. AI agents, and Naveen Chadda, it's like, he's wonderful, like, putting these videos out there. So I agree with that.
And you are a great connector. You connected me with so many people for the podcast, so I really appreciate it. Now let's talk about your journey, your personal story. Last time we connected, I shared my journey. This is the opportunity for me to learn about your journey. How did you come to America? How old were you at that time? About your parents, your siblings. Let's get to know you.
Thank you, Aytakin. By the way, yours is a very inspiring story.
Thank you.
Growing up in India, I basically came from humble beginnings. My mom and dad were very much like, they believed in the value of education and hard work. And my dad always used to, like, talk about the role models, like, not just within the family, but also like outside the family, right? So he always would encourage me to pursue like any career, irrespective of like gender, right? Like you can do anything you want. My mom is similar. Like she would say, like, just go for what you want. Like, don't worry about, only women can do this or man can do this kind of a thing. So I was fortunate because like during that time, it was not the same, in the society. So unfortunately, I lost my dad when I was 17. But
Sorry about that.
Thank you. But my mom was like, she was a ferocious warrior. She is my hero. And she basically said, like, you guys have to continue. Myself and I have a sibling, older brother. So we continued our education. And I came to US when I was 21. Wanted to pursue my master's. And I had a bachelor's in civil engineering in India. And I continued my education here. I came with about $20,000 of loan, and I did not have any kind of a assistantship or scholarship because it was difficult during that time. However, I was able to get, for the second semester, I was able to get the tuition and everything fell into place. So for me, it was the drive, right? Like, it's not just about the money, but it is also about me to kind of prove myself, not just to myself, but also to my family, and provide that financial, freedom, right? Like, support my family. So that was my drive. So I worked like in the field for about 5 years. But then for me, it's always there, like I need to do something, like, something more, right? So that is when I started, like, SriTech, and then, the journey that I shared. When I came here initially, it was a new world. I'm sure you can resonate with me and that. Like, it's a new world for me in terms of language, culture, and, you name it, right? But one thing that I truly, truly appreciated is, like, the kind of opportunities you can avail in US, like, provided you put your hard work into it. So that was like like a gift to me. I said, okay, let me, I can do what I want. So, and one by one, all the doors open. So that is my experience, and I was, able to like pivot this many times and like still go at it, like, what I want, and that is something I don't know if I could have done it if I have stayed back in India. But maybe, I don't know. But I'm definitely thankful for that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Sure.
So let's go back to your professional world. You said that you pivoted your company 4 times. What made you to stay motivated, not to give up, but changing ideas to make sure that you're going to make it, you're going to take it to the next level?
That's a tough one. It is hard, because, you're doing many things at a time. Like, you're pursuing, your professional career, and then you're trying to have a family. And so, and when I had my second child, he was like, 31 weeks, so, premature. So I did take a couple of years of, break. So what motivated me was, I think it's like obviously financial reward is always there, right? Like you want to upward mobility, like you want to go do better, and you want to make more impact. One of the things that also drove me was like as a woman, I was looking at all the opportunities or no opportunities for women, right? And that's one of the things that like I wanted to make it better, because I have a daughter, and I don't want her to be coming, I don't want her to be going through the same things as I did, like in this world, right? So that is the reason I became an angel investor to start with. I wanted to invest in women founders, and I wanted to make it a little better for them, right? So throughout this, I had a supporting husband, of course, supporting family. I think I know your husband is also similar. And doing better. One of the things that I believe in is taking it day by day and, competing with yourself. Like, okay, you didn't do well today. How about, like, you do a little better? Like, not just with of course, you do compare yourself with other people, but not as much as you compare with yourself. Like, do better each day. So those things kind of help me, and also compartmentalizing. It's not easy, but I think focusing on, like, solving one thing at a time is definitely something that helped me. And so those are a few things I can share. And again, it's not easy, and people say that, we can have it all, like women can have it all. No, it's not true. You do need to make those sacrifices, and then it doesn't happen to women especially parallelly, like, going places both in the professional and personal lives. It happens serially, to be honest. That's my experience. I'm sure, like, it's different for different people. So for me, those are the things I kind of practiced. Okay, put my personal life on hold, work on my professional life on hold, and work on my personal life. But at the end, like, as, like, things started getting better, it all came together. Yeah.
Femigrants is a global community of diverse female immigrants. At Femigrants, we connect immigrants to the business and career growth resources. Femigrants offers different types of events, helping immigrants to connect with the most successful and influential immigrant leaders of the Bay Area. These events include, but are not limited to, fireside chats, coffee meetups, different types of brunches, dinner events with immigrant investors and executives, annual forums, summits, and many different types of events where we invite successful immigrant leaders to join as speakers, and many different community members connect with them to learn from them, get inspired, and also support each other. At Femigrants, we also organize different types of trainings for newcomers, for small business owners, and startup founders, helping them to take their business ideas and career to the next level to become successful immigrant leaders in America. If you're an immigrant, no matter how long you have been here, either you have just arrived or you have been living here for many years, we have different resources for you to get the benefit, to enjoy, to get inspired, to feel supported, welcomed, to give and get support. So don't delay your success. Join Femigrants community to become a successful immigrant leader and empower your immigrant peers. To join Femigrants community, please go to femigrants.com, and I hope to see you at one of the Femigrants events in Silicon Valley very soon. We talked about your personal journey and we talked about your professional journey. Now let's talk about mistakes, my favorite topic. So what mistakes or what lessons do you think that you learned through your professional journey, especially with pivoting your companies a couple of times, that if you were now, you would have avoided those lessons?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Aytakin. So one of the biggest mistakes that I made is not evaluating our company for acquisition much sooner. So we had offers, right? Like, we had offers from other service companies, other product companies, and also from our customer, where, they said, hey, we are ready to acquire you. But at this time, like, we did not have the right advice, from our mentors or from advisors, and that is something interestingly I'm trying to be on board for startups right now. And one of the things that, as I'm talking to more people, how do you make these founders like ready for that acquisition, ready for what is their exit strategy? How do you prepare them like to start thinking about that from the beginning? Because not all startups would go through IPO. Like, that's like, I don't know the percentage, but that's a very small percentage. So most of their startups actually end up getting acquired, right? So, but how do you kind of, prepare yourself for that? So that's a mistake that I have done. And, if we would have thought about our exit strategy much early on, then I think like, we could have done a little better. That's one thing. And the other thing, like, in terms of like, me managing my personal and professional life, taking breaks is good, but at the same time, not thinking about having help, like, not just family support, but having help so that you could continue, like, your professional life in one form or the other.
What type of help? Like team members or
like
guidance?
No, I'm talking about the personal life, like having
life.
help.
I see.
That is a big mistake that I have done, because I thought that I have to be there for my children like all the time. And we talk about quality time nowadays, right? Like, how you continue to do what you do, because that's teaching something to your kids, right? So that's another thing that I wish I could have done better. Fortunately, I was still able to kind of catch up, but that is something I would advise, like, to young women and men, like, today, think about it, and then go for that help so that you could continue your journey.
Especially for the immigrant family, it is so hard.
It is hard.
We don't have our parents here or our relatives to trust with our kids, right?
Yeah.
Take care of the kid 1 hour or 2 hours so I can do something.
You're telling me about your mother-in-law helping you, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I had the same thing. Both my mom and my mother-in-law, they came when I had my children, and which is a very common thing in Asian culture, right? And so they came and helped me. But in spite of all that, it is about your anxiety as a mother. Like, I'm not doing enough. That kind of a thing.
Feeling of guilty.
Exactly. So that's something I would say, yes, you are doing enough, and you take care of yourself, and keep on that path, like, continue to, like, do what you want to do professionally as well. And from a company perspective, I do, it's about like, are you running a lifestyle company versus like, are you doing something like, to get acquired or go IPO. That is something that I recommend founders to start thinking about that. Like, for example, having board of advisors, having board of directors, and you can actually, you don't need to pay them in cash, but you could offer them equity, and they would love to come on your board and then help you and guide you. It's not just about your advice, but their network. So all these things play a role. I know founders like, okay, I don't want to deal with all this. I want to focus on, like, developing my product and then think about all this. But the reality is that, like, as you start, like, laying things out, like, laying, what you need to do, getting that board of directors or getting that board of advisors, these are all, like, good things to have in place, because that's only going to make you a better founder. So that's something I highly recommend. And we did not do that. We had advisors, but like not really, like in a professional manner. We did not have it. We had like
to the exit,
more.
Right?
So those are the couple of things. And again, see, at the end of the day, founder's journey is very hard. It's not for everyone. However, when you are, like, passionate and resilient, you will achieve that. But you do need to have those checks and balances, because we do develop that tunnel vision. Like, okay, what we are doing is the right thing. We don't need to get in somebody else's opinion. So that's something you stop yourself, get advice, and then, look at a different perspective and move forward. So that would be my advice.
Thank you so much, very insightful. And now would you like to talk about the founders that you meet. They are making a mistakes and you are guiding them. You better go this way, otherwise your idea or company might not grow as big as you dream for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I meet a lot of founders, and so one thing I would like to advise these founders is, like, in a first meeting, they should focus on telling a story. It's not about how much money you are asking for it. It is about, like, you tell a story and you tell your why. Why are you doing what you are doing? And that is something I'm kind of like, I'm not seeing it as much. And see, a lot of these times, like, whether you go to Plug and Play or like some of the other incubators, these pitches are 3 minutes, and I have attended those pitches. I'm like, this is not doing it for me.
Too technical, right?
No, too technical. And then it's hard, especially for immigrant founders.
Yeah.
Language is not, their strength to start with, right?
Yeah.
It is hard for them to express themselves in 3 minutes in a language that they are not, too comfortable with. Their idea. And, and it's not easy, right? So, I mean, while they can attend those, like, that's fine. But my thing is, if they are really serious about, like, meeting the right investor for their company, start the meeting by telling them about their journey. And also, like, in 5 or 6 slides, it should not be more, like, talk about, like, where they are at and as far as fundraising and how much money are they looking for and what are they going to do with that money and what is their go-to-market strategy. That is very important. Like, what is your total available market and how much are you focusing on and how are you going to achieve that? So these are some fundamental things if they kind of convince, like, their story, their passion and the market, like, and their product and how much money they are looking for and the team, and it should not be more than half an hour. They should be able to convince the investor and educate the investor on what they're doing. So I'm not seeing that as much. Like, it's like right away they start like, oh, we are looking for 2 million, we are looking for what. And but while that works, I'm not saying that doesn't work. But if you start with, okay, look, I'm trying to solve this problem. And how is this problem going to impact, the lives of people or the society at large? All these things are very important because you're setting the stage. You're setting the stage in investors' mind that, okay, this is something big, we need to pay attention to. So things like that, I mean, storytelling is a big thing, that. And I think I one skill, I highly recommend that for founders. Yeah.
So, and one of the podcasts that I love listening to this type of podcast, and in one of the podcasts, investor said that most of the founders, they present, they don't pitch. And there is a difference between presentation and pitching.
Yeah.
You clarified it for us, like what they need to focus on. But would you like to add anything between the difference in presentation and pitch, so to help founders to realize that, oh, that wasn't the pitch actually I made last time?
Yeah. See, I don't like long presentations. All I need to know, I just need a visuals of in 5 or 6 slides, especially with the with the market, like what's the market size and things like that. But what I would like to see more is how these founders are presenting themselves in a way, like they're knowledgeable about the field that they are doing this, and and basically the team, like what kind of a team they have equipped themselves with. And if it is co-founders, this is something I always advise. Just do one-person presentation, especially in the first meeting.
Why?
Because I feel like, as it is, they're nervous. And on top of that, going back and forth between, like, you present this slide, I present this slide, it kind of takes some time for them to get used to, not just for the founders, but even for the investors, right? Because you are setting in, like, setting a tone with one person's voice. And so, but then if the investor is invested, obviously you're going to have multiple meetings. And during that time, you can kind of, like, get the other person present as well. But what I want to see in the founder is, like, if CEO is presenting, I would like to see this person as a holistic, the CEO as a holistic person, somebody who who is passionate, somebody who knows about the market, somebody who is kind and generous are not probably the right words, but somebody who is who is passionate about his own team, like I gathered this team because we are the right people to do this, that kind of a feeling. And overall, have some control. Like, I met in some presentations, for example, I met some CEOs, like, who are clueless about, like, their financials, like, their revenue projections, all this. So, but those are the things you need the CEO to have a control on, right? It's more of a pitch. I completely agree. Presentation, we are not, at least I am not looking for like a 13, 14, 15 slides. I am looking for 5 to 6 slides. But during that time, cover the main points, like, your passion, your market, like, your product, your team, and how much are you looking for and how are you going to spend it on. So that's the first meeting.
So recently I connected one of the founders to investors. So she reached out to me, and she's a Femigrant, and she listened to our podcast and asked me to introduce her to one of the guests. I reached out to that investor and said that this is her startup. Would you be interested? She's traveling, considering that. And then I went to the LinkedIn, just directly introduced them. The first sentence she wrote, "Hi, XYZ, this is my startup," and then she paused. And I was like, that shouldn't be this way. That was my feeling. And then I saw her at the event where I was a speaker. She came to as a Femigrant to be there to support, etc. And I kindly gave her feedback. I said that if I were you, I wouldn't just write one sentence about my company and pause to see what she says. If I were you, I would maybe first start building a relationship with the founder or investor. Maybe ask when she's coming back, how she's enjoying, and then if she will be available to meet for a coffee, then you can talk about your idea. So for people, and I don't blame her. It's not like blaming games. This is something like it's her. For her, it's a new journey. She
doesn't know,
right? So after that, now I thought that okay, we need to talk about this with investors who are guests in the podcast to help other founders not to make that mistake. So when people or founders are introduced through common connections, what would be the best way for them to step in to introduce themselves and build connections with investors?
Yeah, so a lot of founders, they send their their pitch deck to me, like in LinkedIn in the first one, right? It's not about that. It's about, as you said, personal connection. I mean, business is done on personal connections and trust. It's not about like looking at some pitch deck. So my recommendation would be, so like, for example, hey, I'm so-and-so, like, Aytakin introduced me and she has a lot of good things to say about you. And then you state like, the context, like, you heard the podcast. So that means what does that convey to the investor? The investor, oh, okay, this founder is interested. And then you say, hey, and these are the points that I really, resonated with me. And I would like to know more and understand more more of your investment thesis. So because not every founder has the same thesis, right? Like some has deep tech, some has biotech. Like, so you have to do your homework on, like, which investor to approach. Now, not every investor invests in all sectors, right? So you go to sector specific, and then, and stages, like funding stages, early stage or pre-seed, or like, or Series A, like all these stages are there. So you can go to a Series B investor and say, hey, can you invest in my early stage company?
Yeah.
They just don't do that. It's a waste of time for both of them.
Right.
So these are something I highly recommend. Do some homework, and then, like, and then understand it before approach them. But the first meeting always should be, and I would love to have a conversation and understand what you think about, like, this particular sector, like our opportunities and challenges in this particular sector, or the so, and then once you kind of like get some interest, you could say, hey, like personal meeting is good, and like virtual. I would recommend a first virtual meeting, and then go to a personal meeting, because by this time, half an hour, it's easy to get. And do the virtual meeting, you talk about what you are doing, and then if there is interest from both sides, you go to the next level.
Great recommendation.
Yeah.
So when you need to reach out to any investor, especially if you are introduced through some connections, first ask for virtual meeting, give a chance to each other to get to know well, or at some level, and then take it to the next level to meet in person and have a deep conversation about your idea, startup, and what type of help you are looking for. Thank you for that recommendation and advice. I'm sure it will help a lot. What we can do to increase the number of founders to get more investment? Only 2% of women gets investment. How we can increase that number?
Great question. Very close to my heart. So my personal advocacy is to increase the number of women in VC. And, you see a lot of women fund managers, like, who are doing that now, right? Like you just interviewed Rachna. So so it has to come from all aspects. It's not just about increasing the women in VC, but see, right now we don't have many women fund managers, hence, like, you don't have that perspective of, investing in women founders, right? So it and then it actually proved that when you have more women fund managers, more money will go to women founders, because they understand that better. Just to give you an example, in women's healthcare right now, like, more men are actually trying to solve women's health problems than women. And I'm like, no, that's like, they don't understand. So we need more women founders in women's healthcare. And similarly, you see a lot of women fund managers in that, right? So that would be one thing, and especially with the great wealth transfer, which you have heard about, like 60% of that that $50 trillion by 2030 is supposed to, like, be inherited by women. So that means, like, a lot of women, we need to make sure, we need to raise the awareness that there is a need here. Right, and so that they could actually become either fund managers or become LPs in or like, do however an angel investor to invest in women health founders. And the other thing is, like, so that's one. The second thing is, women founders, what I noticed is they're very hesitant to start a company. I'm not talking about like a small business, like, to help your community. That actually more women do. But I'm talking about, like, imagining I can solve, like, ovarian cancer problem. Like, so somebody that, like, courage, right? And that I see is lacking in women. So because a lot of founders, not founders, a lot of women come to me and say, hey, I don't know if I want to, like, start a company. I'm very scared, like, like, I don't know if I can do that, right? So something that is, like, they need to talk about it, they need to get a mentor, and they need to basically form the network network and all, because they need to understand there are resources available if only they seek it, right? And they know, and it is a problem that is better solved by women. I mean, the women's healthcare problems especially, than men, because they understand the perspective better. And similarly, other technology problems, like anything, like, women can do everything, whatever men can do. That is the reality.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, we don't have enough data out there, like, talking about women's success, right? Because it's a very recent. Yeah. Like, did you know that until like 1980 or 1980 actually, women were not allowed to start a business? Did you know that in US? So that just started recently. So we don't have enough data to prove that. So that means women need to come forward and say, hey, I want to do something. I want to solve this problem. And, go for it. The resources are only increasing, Aytakin.
Yeah.
Like, look at you. You started this foundation.
Thank you.
and there are a lot of other, resources, like, for example, Melinda Gates, Pivotal Ventures.
Yeah.
She's doing a wonderful job, like, investing in women through that.
Yeah.
And same thing with Scott McKinsey. She's also, like, investing more in women.
Right.
So, some of our women, like, they need to follow their footsteps, like, be, more women in VC, and hence, like, more women founders.
So do you think that maybe the next 5 years we will be able, if you continue doing what we are doing now I see more people, more women interested in joining the VC world, investment world, becoming founders, like, or billion-dollar company founders. Do you think we will be able, with this speed, to increase the number, the percentage?
Well,
or we need to do more?
We always need to do more. So my what if vision statement is, like, what if, like, by year 2035, instead of getting 2% of VC funding, women get 30% of VC funding. And some people say, well, that's too low. We need to get 50% of VC funding. And some people say, oh, that's too much. Mm-hmm. So time only will tell. And all we can do right now is continue to educate and raise the awareness, and, and increase the resources, like through Femigrant Foundation or some other, like there are a lot of others like that, and increase, and help these women, develop that confidence or improve that confidence to come forward and start their companies. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
As a format of this show, guests can ask one question, the host.
Okay.
So now it's your time to ask me one question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed by what you are doing, Aytakin, like, especially, the target audience, like, the Femigrant founders and investors. So what are your takeaways? You have spoken to several investors, several founders. Mm-hmm. What are your takeaways?
That's a great question, and it makes me think about it before jumping to an answer. My takeaway is that as a mom, as a woman, to educate our daughters on investment, especially the data that you shared last time about 60%. I have never heard about the word investment and fundraising, etc. I learned about it after moving to Silicon Valley. My takeaway is that learn, educate, inspire, and give back. And that's how we can all grow together.
100%.
That's my belief.
100%. And I know you have 2 daughters, and I can see them being, investors or founders at some point.
Amen. Praying for it. We are ending our show. Is there any advice or maybe top 3 tips you would like to give to founders to stay ambitious and motivated to grow?
Yeah, I mean, so the founder journey is not an easy one, right? You need to be resilient and also being able to adapt and flexible and pivot, right? This is actually my biggest advice to all the founders. Don't give up. You will hit roadblocks, like, every day. But what you need to focus on your true north, like, what is that I want to do, and then just go for it. Like, it's not a linear path; it is a convoluted path. Mm-hmm. But just go for it. So don't think that, it's like, don't get into this glamorous thing of like, okay, I'm going to be a unicorn, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Not everybody could be a unicorn, but that doesn't mean that you cannot build a good company. So just if you want to solve some problem, be aware of the journey and go for it.
Can we add also be flexible to pivot?
Yeah, that's what I said, being able to pivot, because it's about, it is about market conditions.
Yeah.
You can have a product, but would the market be able to buy it, or bear it, right? So that is about that. You start with one idea. So there is a thing called product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very essential for a founder in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
But that is continuously evolving, because a typical startup takes about 7 years to succeed. That is when they get the visibility, and that is when they start getting the momentum. So during this first 7 years, they need to be able to adapt and pivot and evolve. According to the market conditions.
Now you gave me better hope. I have been doing Femigrant 7 years.
Yeah.
And yesterday I gave a speech at Stanford Entrepreneur event, and I talked about the times when you are ready to quit.
Yeah.
And I shared my own journey. There were 3 different times I was almost quitted.
Yeah.
But I remained resilient, pivoted, changed, and Femigrant is still here. I am here, and it's growing.
Yeah. No, I completely on board with that. You got to stay long enough to quit.
Yeah.
You can't do it for a couple of years and say I'm done.
Thank you so much. It was such a great pleasure to have you. Very insightful conversation. I appreciate your time, your modesty and authenticity in this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aytakin. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate your wisdom.
Thank you, Subha.